Let me paint a picture for you. A family torn apart, emotions running high, and a man caught between his own ego and the fragile bonds of his multiple wives. If you've been keeping up with Sister Wives, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's no longer just about the drama. It's about heartbreak, betrayal, and the ultimate quest for freedom. And right now, the tension is higher than ever. Christine has finally had enough. Meri's still holding on to hope that she'll get what she deserves. And Janelle? Well, Janelle is stuck right in the middle, navigating a storm she can't control. But at the center of it all, there's Kody, a man whose power over the family is slowly slipping away. His selfishness is becoming more glaring with every episode, and it's clear now. The cracks in this polygamous family are getting deeper. So, what happens when a family that's built on the foundation of togetherness begins to fall apart? Will Kody take accountability for his actions? Will the wives ever find the strength to reclaim their autonomy? Or will they continue to live in his shadow while he controls the narrative? Hi, friends. I'm Olivia, and welcome to TLC's Sister Wives Secrets. Today, we're diving into the most emotional, jaw-dropping moments from the latest season, unpacking the struggles, the tears, and the real reasons why things are falling apart for Kody and his wives. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we're about to uncover today. Before we get into the juicy details of what's happening right now in the Sister Wives world, let's take a moment to look at how we got here. Kody Brown, the man who once proudly proclaimed himself as the head of a thriving polygamous family, now stands at the center of a storm. His relationships with his wives, Christine, Janelle, Meri, and Robin, are crumbling right before our eyes. And the reason for it? Well, there are many, but one thing's for sure. Kody's approach to polygamy, his need for control, and his blatant disregard for the emotional well-being of his wives has turned this family upside down. Let's rewind a bit. When we first met Kody and his wives, it was clear that polygamy was a choice they all made. They seemed to have a united front, like a well-oiled machine. But as the years went by, the cracks began to show. The real turning point came when Kody and his wives were forced to move to Flagstaff, Arizona. Up until that point, the family had been living in Las Vegas, and while there were issues, it was nothing like what was about to unfold. When Kody moved the family to Flagstaff, the tensions between him and his wives started to intensify. Suddenly, it wasn't just about managing 4 different households. It was about Kody's increasing need to control every aspect of their lives. His relationship with Christine, who had always been one of his most vocal supporters, began to fray. And with Meri, it was clear that there was a lot of unresolved bitterness from the catfishing scandal. Remember that mess? It was hard to watch Meri try to stay committed to Kody when she felt abandoned emotionally and spiritually. But even though there was constant tension, none of the wives seemed to have the courage to walk away. At least not yet. And let's talk about Janelle. This is where things really started to change. Janelle, who had always been the more laid-back, pragmatic wife, began to realize just how much she was being taken for granted. She felt neglected by Kody, who seemed more concerned with controlling the narrative than actually being a supportive husband. And don't even get me started on Robin, the youngest wife, who somehow managed to wiggle her way into being Kody's favorite, while the other wives felt like mere afterthoughts. Over the course of the last few seasons, the cracks between the wives and Kody grew deeper. It's almost like we could see the exact moment when Christine's resolve finally broke. The tension between her and Kody was palpable, especially after Kody's refusal to listen to her needs, both emotionally and physically. Christine became more isolated, and Kody's gaslighting of her was difficult to ignore. There was a point when it became clear that Christine was no longer willing to play along with Kody's version of the family dynamic. What's interesting, though, is how TLC has portrayed all of this. For a long time, the show made it seem like everything was going okay, but behind the scenes, the reality of what was happening was much more toxic. Kody's unwillingness to acknowledge the emotional struggles of his wives, coupled with his out-of-control temper, has created a toxic environment that's finally coming to a head. But here's the kicker. While Kody remains insistent that he is the one who's right, it's clear that the wives have begun to realize their worth. They're starting to take control of their own destinies, and they aren't afraid to show it. We're Seeing it with Christine, who's come to the conclusion that she deserves better, and even Janelle, who's finally speaking up and saying, enough is enough. So, where does that leave us now? We've got a family divided, a man who's lost control, and wives who are ready to reclaim their power. Kody may have thought he was the one who called the shots, but the truth is, the tables are turning. How did we get here? What led to the destruction of this once promising family? Stick around, because we're about to dig deep into the latest drama and uncover the real reasons why this polygamous family is falling apart. Now that we've set the stage, let's talk about the man at the center of it all, Kody Brown. His desire to maintain control over his family has been one of the major catalysts for the tension that's been simmering for years. It's not just about the fact that he's got 4 wives, or that he's trying to juggle multiple households. It's his overwhelming need to be the one who calls all the shots that has caused his relationships to spiral. From the very beginning of the series, Kody always presented himself as the head of the family, the one who had all the answers. He was the self-proclaimed patriarch, the man who would provide for his wives and children, guiding them through life's challenges. But somewhere along the way, Kody's vision of polygamy took a turn. Instead of seeing his wives as equal partners, he began to treat them more like pawns in his game. He expected them to fall in line, follow his rules, and keep quiet about their needs and feelings. And it's this mindset that has ultimately led to his downfall. One of the most glaring examples of Kody's control issues was his reaction to the pandemic. When COVID-19 hit, we saw just how far Kody was willing to go to maintain control. He made it clear that only Robin, the wife he was closest to, was allowed to be in his personal bubble. That meant no visits to the other wives, no family gatherings, and no support for the women he had once promised to cherish. Kody's behavior during the pandemic highlighted how deeply disconnected he had become from the needs of his other wives. Christine, who had already been struggling with her relationship with Kody for years, was particularly affected by this. She was frustrated by his refusal to listen to her concerns, and that frustration soon turned into resentment. Kody's strict rules about social distancing were never applied equally across the family. Robin was treated like the chosen wife, while the others were left to fend for themselves. Kody's behavior was a clear message. His needs came first, and if the wives didn't like it, that was their problem. But what Kody didn't expect was how this treatment would start to backfire. Christine, who had already been emotionally checked out of her marriage, reached a breaking point. She finally realized that she deserved more than to be treated as an afterthought. This is where her decision to leave him came into play. She had been unhappy for years, but the pandemic gave her the clarity she needed to take control of her own life. And what about Janelle? Well, Kody's treatment of her was just as bad. She too was being pushed aside in favor of Robin, and it was only a matter of time before Janelle decided that enough was enough. Kody's need to control every single aspect of his family's life had alienated him from the people who mattered most. His stubborn refusal to admit that he had made mistakes was a major factor in his unraveling. Kody might have believed that his polygamous family would continue to operate under his tight grip, but the reality is that the more he tried to control, the more he pushed his wives away. Now, we're watching as they take back their power and make decisions that will forever change the dynamics of this once united family. Now, we come to the moment that rocked the entire Brown family, Christine's decision to leave Kody. For years, Christine had been the rock of the family, the one who tried to hold everything together. But as we've seen over the seasons, her patience began to wear thin. Kody's constant disregard for her feelings, his emotional neglect, and his inability to treat her as an equal in their marriage. These were the things that pushed her to the brink. Christine's journey to this decision didn't happen overnight. It was a slow burn, one that had been building for years. She had always been the optimistic one, the wife who held on to the belief that Kody would eventually realize how important she was to him. But with each passing season, that hope dimmed. Kody's actions spoke louder than his words, and Christine could no longer ignore the fact that she was being sidelined in her own marriage. The breaking point, however, came during the pandemic. While Kody was isolating with Robin, Christine felt more isolated than ever. She didn't just feel like a third wheel. She felt like she had been completely forgotten. Attention was laser-focused on Robin, and Christine was left to navigate the hardships of the pandemic alone. This emotional abandonment was something Christine couldn't overlook anymore. Her decision to leave Kody was more than just a physical separation. It was an emotional reclamation. For the first time in years, Christine put herself first. She realized that she deserved more than what Kody had been offering her, more than the scraps of affection, more than the neglect. And let's be real, her decision was incredibly empowering. It took guts to finally say, "I'm done." Christine wasn't just leaving a man, she was walking away from a life that had never fully been hers. She was stepping into a future where she could have the autonomy and respect she had been yearning for. It was a moment of self-love, self-respect, and courage. And for many of us watching, it was a moment that felt like a long, overdue victory. So now that Christine has made her decision, the fallout from her leaving Kody is like a bombshell dropped on the entire family. The emotional waves ripple through each of the wives, and Kody himself seems, honestly, shocked. It's like he didn't see it coming, despite all the signs leading up to it. But can we really blame him for being blindsided? Kody, who was always more focused on his favorite wives, mainly Robin, had no idea just how deeply Christine was hurting. Let's start with the other wives. Janelle, who has had her own challenges with Kody, was one of the first to show a real understanding of Christine's decision. She's always been independent and straightforward, and while she was sad for the family dynamic to shift, she got it. Janelle knew the toll Kody's favoritism had taken on Christine, and there was a part of her that admired Christine's strength. She wasn't happy about it, but she was supportive in her own quiet way. Meri, on the other hand, was a completely different story. Let's just say she didn't take Christine's exit well at all. Meri, still holding on to her own hope of a reunion with Kody, even though we all know how that's going, found it hard to swallow the reality that Christine was walking away. For Meri, the idea of leaving Kody was never really on her radar. It felt like her commitment was unshakable, even if Kody clearly wasn't as invested in her as he once was. Seeing Christine leave must have been like a mirror to her own struggles, but instead of learning from it, Meri seemed to spiral. And then there's Kody. If you watch his reactions closely, you'll notice something critical. Kody has a way of shifting blame, especially when it comes to his failures as a husband. He insists that Christine's decision to leave him was sudden and unexpected, but we all know this was building for years. His emotional distance, his dismissive behavior, he didn't just lose Christine, he lost a wife who had given him so much over the years. And instead of taking responsibility, he leans into that victim mentality, calling it all Christine's fault, as if her leaving was the result of a single dramatic event. But honestly, we know the truth. It was a lifetime of small cuts, a slow erosion of trust and connection that led to this breaking point. Now that Christine has left Kody, it's honestly like watching someone shed a weight that's been holding them down for years. I mean, you can feel it in the air. For so long, Christine had been the one keeping the family together, trying to balance all these relationships, trying to be everything Kody needed and still somehow losing herself in the process. And now, she's finally free. And you can see that sense of empowerment radiating off her in every interaction she has. The Christine we see now is stronger, more confident, and dare I say, happier. But let's not sugarcoat it. This isn't easy. Leaving a family and a way of life she's been part of for decades. That's huge. The emotional toll Christine faced wasn't something you could brush off, and we saw that struggle in the show. I think the hardest part for her, honestly, was knowing how much it would affect her kids. Her children had grown up in this polygamous lifestyle, and suddenly, she was pulling them away from it. We saw her tearfully try to explain to her kids that this was not about abandoning them, but more about her needing to take control of her own happiness. She needed to teach them that it's okay to stand up for yourself, that it's okay to make decisions that prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. And you know what? As much as it hurt her to make that break, we see a side of Christine that we've never really seen before. She's starting to thrive, and not just as a mother, but as an individual. The way she's been living her life post-Kody is completely different. She's working on herself, diving into new business ventures, reconnecting with old friends, and let's be real, exploring new relationships. The confidence that Christine exudes now is unmatched. Her social media is filled with her smiling, laughing, and living life on her terms. And you can tell, she's finally embracing her own worth. But here's the thing. Christine's empowerment isn't just about her leaving Kody. It's about showing other women, especially those in similar situations, that it's okay to walk away. You don't have to settle. You deserve to be happy. And if that means letting go of something that's been holding you down, then that's exactly what you need to do. Christine might have left Kody, but in doing so, she found herself. And trust me, that's the most powerful transformation of all. And just like that, we've watched Christine go from someone who was nearly broken by her relationship with Kody to a woman who is standing tall, stronger, and more confident than ever. It's honestly incredible to see her transformation unfold on screen, and I can't help but feel a sense of pride for her. She took a step that many never could, leaving a life and a relationship that no longer served her. But here's the big question. What's next for Christine? And where does this leave the rest of the family? If we know anything about this family, it's that drama is never far behind. Kody's reaction to Christine's departure and how the other wives, especially Janelle and Meri, will deal with the fallout is something we have to watch. I mean, we can already sense the tension building, and trust me, I'm here for all of it. Now, I want to know your thoughts. Do you think Christine made the right decision? Or do you think there's still a chance for her and Kody to reconcile? What do you think is going to happen next in the family dynamics? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the latest Sister Wives drama. You're not going to want to miss what's coming next, I promise. Thank you so much for tuning in today to TLC's Sister Wives Secrets. Keep the conversation going, and I'll see you in the next video.